Hello, I'm Terry the Pterodactyl, and I'm here to tell you that the following podcast delves deep into the 1994 movie Clifford. Look out! Spoilers!
This is Diabolical, the comedy podcast that dissects film's most dastardly schemes, then competes to improve them. I'm your host, Craig, and this week's movie is Paul Flaherty's 1994 bizarre bad seed cult comedy classic, Clifford. So, Peril Pals, dress up like a 10-year-old boy from the 1920s, systematically destroy your uncle's life, and let's get diabolical. Hello and welcome to this special guest episode. Joining me on the panel of peril this week, Adam.
Hello.
Ben.
Hello.
Gaz.
Hiya.
And our very special guest, host of Movie Friends Pod, Clifford apologist, Seth Vargas.
Hello. That is, I would prefer if the Clifford title came first, quite frankly. If I could just be introduced everywhere I went as Seth Vargas, the Clifford. I don't know. I got to come up with a good title, but
Super fun.
I've been leading the charge of Clifford for about, 20, 25 years now of my life.
Is it paid off yet?
It has. I'm here. Clifford was my ticket into you guys. So clearly the decades of work has paid off.
Okay. I like this guy. Yeah, he's yanking my chain in a good way.
I wanted to go back and find your Clifford episode, but it's behind your Patreon, so I have not heard it yet, but I think I'm going to at some point.
You bugger.
Skinflint.
That's true. Yes, it's one of the first movies that we did for our Patreon series, Super Amazing Film Club, where we talk to people that we love about movies that they love. And for our website, we started putting up written articles. And the very first one that I wrote was in honor of Clifford turning 30.
I did read your article, yeah. I'm not a skinflint, Gaz. I'm just poor. We've been through 14 years of conservative government here.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
we've had a week of Labour, so
Okay, yeah, things are looking up.
get your wallet out.
Now, Seth, as with every guest who suggests we watch a critically and commercially crushed comedy from the 90s, we're required to conduct a psychological evaluation of you. And I'll hand you over now to our resident evil expert, Ben, who has some questions for you.
This is the part of the show where we ask our guests some scientifically determined questions to find out just how diabolical they are. Seth, like a Rorschach test, please answer honestly with the first thing that pops into your head.
I've basically spent my entire life not training myself to not do that. So
This is going against all that training.
yes.
Alien or Predator?
A predator.
Ooh.
Nice.
Popcorn or nachos at the movies?
Neither. Can I say that?
That is the correct answer. Well done.
Okay. Yeah, neither.
Cape or mask?
Mask.
Jaws or the T-Rex from Jurassic Park?
Neither.
Oof. That's also the right answer because I was going to finish by saying, which would you prefer to hand feed?
Oh,
that changes it.
yes. I'll take the shark.
That makes sense because that shark didn't work, as Spielberg keeps reminding everybody, but the
Right.
T-Rex sure did.
Yeah.
Horror movie marathon or rom-com binge?
It depends. If I have to sit down and watch all of the Halloween films, then I'm going to select rom-com. But I would err on the side of a horror movie binge.
Well, sticking with the theme of horror, you're trapped in a horror movie. Which character archetype are you?
Oh, I'm the fat guy.
Me too.
I'm the dude, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm the brother. I'm useless, I guess, and I'm probably going to die quite quickly. But yeah, I think my rotundity would be my defining feature.
Excellent, thank you. For the chance to experience your favourite movie again, as if it were the first time, all you have to do is steal candy from a child. What do you do?
How many children?
Just one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would line up 500. I'll do it. I'll be the Danny Ocean of stealing from children. What, are you kidding?
I don't think we've had anybody on yet who wouldn't steal candy from a child.
Yeah, that's because it's a win-win. They don't need candy. They're a child.
Yeah.
It's not good for them.
It'll ruin your appetite. It'll spoil
Exactly.
it.
You don't want to end up the fat guy in the movie. I'm already there, so...
You're doing them a service.
That's right. I'm a hero.
Yeah, you are.
Say it with a bit more conviction, Ben.
That's all I can muster at 5 a.m. Your favourite actor's worst movie? Defend it in one sentence.
In order to experience every film made by a Coppola in the 90s, you need to watch Deadfall, which, in my opinion, has an incredibly captivating, alluring, illuminating, and perhaps career best performance from Nicolas Cage.
Wow.
I believe that was one sentence.
You put claws to the test there. There's some punctuation in that sentence. And here I am. I have not seen Deadfall, and I'm going to go away tonight and find it.
Never heard of it.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad. Yeah. If you thought Left Behind was bad, if you thought Jiu-Jitsu was bad, Looking Glass, you need to check out Deadfall. It's amazing. He's doing an insane, maybe the most insane Nicolas Cage performance.
I haven't seen anything I didn't like him in on some level.
Amen.
Yeah.
He's got charisma out of the wazoo, that guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. Is it Parkinson, the UK chat show where he came on for Wild at Heart in like snakeskin pants doing high kicks?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think it was Parkinson, wasn't it? That's great.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Parky loved it. He absolutely loved it.
Yeah. It was either Parkinson or like Terry Wogan or somebody like that.
I know it's Wogan.
Was it Wogan? Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think it's Wogan. Yeah.
Which movie deserves a sequel?
Wow.
Deadfalls with a dollar sign.
Yeah, maybe like Leaving Las Vegas,
Wow.
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, what happens after that?
Wow, this is such a hard question that I'm taking so seriously, and I absolutely shouldn't. I'm going to do a little, non-answer, and I'm going to say Pee-wee's Big Adventure, because Big Top Pee-wee sucks. And so we need a full-on actual direct sequel to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That's not Pee-wee's Vacation or Big Top Pee-wee.
You want something that carries on that important story?
Yes.
Right. And finally, Seth, who needs taking down a peg or two?
I'm going to say Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, 100%.
No, you've gone too far.
He needs to be taken down 20 pegs.
I'm in agreement with that.
No.
I think funnily enough, Craig from Wits the Script said on the podcast this week, he'd say he was thinking about Tom Cruise and he'd stop him running for a day or something, wouldn't he? Or
Sure, he did say that.
yeah. So yeah, so you're in good company.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the questions. And as I'm totting up your answers, I'm seeing that you are, I think you are, yep. You are 12 florets of broccoli evil.
Wow.
Is that bad?
No, that's pretty good.
I mean, depends how you look at it, but that's among our most evil guests so far.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Wow.
No, but that's good. No, but you want to be. The more evil you are in here, the better.
Okay. All right. Well,
We
I like
welcome
broccoli
evil.
too, so.
So I was particularly impressed by your willingness to just fleece 500 children of their candy.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. One wasn't enough. You upped it.
I thought most of the points were being mean to the cruiser. Bless his little heart.
I'm totally in line with that. That was great.
Now, let's hear from Gaz with a synopsis of this week's movie.
Birthing fully formed from the minds of Second City players Stephen Campman and Will Aldis, Clifford was pitched to Orion Pictures physically, acted out scene by scene as a comedy take on the 1956 enfant terrible thriller The Bad Seed. The story sees the eponymous, ominous little scamp push his parents past breaking point after trying to down their commercial flight in his desperation to visit Dinosaur World. As fate would have it, Clifford's estranged uncle is, at that very moment, looking for a way to show his fiancée how good he is with children, and just so happens to not only live near the Jurassic-themed park, but also to have designed its mascot, Larry the Scary Rex, granting Clifford free access to the attraction. However, due to Clifford's growing frustrations with his uncle's failure to deliver on his promise to take him there, and with his infatuation for his uncle's betrothed, the two come to loggerheads, and they're both in for a wild ride. Seeking to avoid direct competition with Problem Child, which was in development at Universal at the same time, Campman hit on the idea of casting fellow Second City alumnus Martin Short, whose agents produced the movie, as the titular 10-year-old. To play the foil to Short's Machiavellian man-child, legendary comedy curmudgeon Charles Grodin was cast as Clifford's beleaguered, exploitative Uncle Martin, with Dabney Coleman as his sleazy boss and Mary Steenburgen on fine form as the object of all their affections, Miss Sarah Davis. Creative differences led to Campman's departure from the helm of the 1990 production, and incoming director Paul Flaherty, who had previously worked with Star Short on Canadian comedy Spawning Ground SCTV, admitted that he thought the concept would bomb, but screen tests convinced all involved that the film would be a success. Thanks to the involvement of Chinatown cinematographer John Alonzo, stunning set design and makeup, the film is a visual treat, with many standout sequences. To achieve the illusion of Martin Short's relative height, the other actors would stand on crates or wear heels. Background artists were often cast based on their height too. For the film's climactic rollercoaster sequence, around 20 feet of track was built, with miniatures completing the effect, and the Larry the Scary Rex jingle courtesy of the film's composer Oingo Boingo's Richard Gibbs. Despite the high calibre of talent involved, the film was a commercial and critical bomb on its eventual release in 1994. But what did the panel of Peril make of it?
Thank you, Gaz, and let's start with our guest and movie friend, Seth Vargas. And the first question is, why Clifford? Why did you choose Clifford for us to look at this week?
Well, thank you very much. It's the best movie ever made. It's one of the funniest comedies of the 90s, flat out. And it's a great time capsule to this time of what I call like the kids rule, kid empowerment movement. Obviously, we look at Home Alone, right? And it's like, wow, kids can do anything as long as it involves hurting adults. And I feel like Clifford is a response to that and like a riff on that. It's like, genuinely, I love this movie. I don't love it ironically. I think that this movie is so funny. Now, it's not like, oh, an incredibly smart, subversive. This is a comedy. It's a Hollywood comedy. But to me, this is like the best that a Hollywood comedy can be, because at its center, not on the side, not playing a character like in like Father of the Bride or something, at its center, you've got Martin Short, who, forgetting the facts right now, but I believe he's 40, 37 to 40.
37, yeah. Apparently,
yeah. When they film. So closer to 40 when the movie comes out.
Yeah.
As a 10-year-old boy, and no one ever mentions it. No one says, that's your nephew? Or like, wow, you're big for your age. There's nothing.
No.
You're wrinkled for your age.
Yeah, right. Including Uncle Martin, who is the enemy, the adversary. He fully buys in on Martin Short as this child.
Yeah.
And it's such a good idea that has not been pulled off well other places. Obviously, in voice acting, you have adults playing kids all of the time. But, you know, there was the Wayne's production, Little Man, where, you know, one of them played like a baby with the face of an adult on it. It's so odd and unsettling. And the other thing that I love about Clifford is I watched this as a kid. Like, we watched this as a family. And you would think, oh, okay, we've got this adult comedy star who's playing a kid. He's going to be getting into some naughty stuff. Not really. Like, they don't take it to this line. You know, there's a quick shot of Clifford watching women dancing topless on the television. There's his infatuation with Miss Sarah Davis. But for the most part, you could put an actual child in this role and the movie plays exactly the same way. So to me, that's genius. It's amazing. And I am here to say Clifford did nothing wrong. His parents suck and Uncle Martin sucks and he broke his promise, and you cannot break a promise to a little boy.
Okay, well, we had some debate about who was the villain in this one, and I thought on the first viewing, I thought it was immediately obvious to me that it was Clifford.
Yes.
And I don't know if anybody else watched this more than once. I watched it twice, and what I found is, on my first viewing, I was so nonplussed by Martin Short as a 10-year-old that I couldn't appreciate some of the humor in it. But when I watched it the second time and the shock had dissipated, I then appreciated it a lot more. I was laughing more. I know you say it would play the same with a real kid, but there is that one moment very early on when Clifford is resting in the airport lounge and Uncle Martin comes in to look at him, and the way that it's framed and the way that the woman speaks about him, and even Uncle Martin looks at him as if this is a cute child curled up on the sofa, but it's Martin Short. So I think there are moments when they do play up to the fact that he's not a child. But yeah, you're right. They're few and far between, and he's certainly not sleazy, a little unhinged. But yeah, I think the great thing that Martin Short does, and this is predictably what Martin Short would do in this scenario, is that he has Clifford sing like Ethel Merman and things like that. Like just things that are like precocious affectations that children wouldn't do. Well, I don't know if anybody else will have appreciated Clifford quite as much as I did. But
I'm used to that. That's the story of my life. Yes.
But I know for a fact that Adam didn't, because we spoke about it a little just before we came on. So I'd like to go next to Adam and hear your thoughts on Clifford.
I think Adam saw a lot of himself in there, so I think it was a bit too close to the bone.
Oh, yeah, me, yeah. Clifford was wearing the same red waistcoat that we used to wear at Safeway when you used to push the trolleys around. So immediately I hated him for that. I actually put my review, it's because Mary Steenburgen plays Will Ferrell's mum in Step Brothers.
Yeah.
So my one-line review is shit Step Brothers without the stepbrother, essentially.
That's pretty great.
It's like a football chant, isn't it? Shit Step Brothers without stepbrother.
Yeah, it is. But it's like he's supposed to be playing a child, but he doesn't do anything childlike.
He does, though. Like, one of the great childlike things he does right at the start is climbing over Richard Kind, like only a child would climb over an adult that way.
Yeah.
And then he's, slapping everybody in the head, and he's really kind of impulsive, and he speaks with that kind of sweet register. I think he is quite childlike.
Yeah, but it's all forced, though, isn't it? It's like when, it's just...
Martin Short could have forced it more. Of all performers, he could have taken this up, like, a lot.
I thought he was quite subdued for Martin Short.
Yeah.
Didn't land with me at all, I've got to be honest. I found it excruciatingly hard to watch. I know we've watched, yeah. I'm not going to lie. It was very, very difficult to watch. I was like, how bad can this film actually be, when you start watching a film? And then my fourth note is, wow, this is already like pulling teeth. I'll leave it there.
It's great.
Well, Ben, you thought that Martin Short gave a slightly more nuanced performance than what Adam's suggesting. Did you know, by the way, Ben, you may know this already, that this movie is known in Japan as Jurassic Boy?
Oh, no, I did not know that.
Wow.
And in French Canada, it is known as A Grain of Malice, but, in French.
Wow.
Oh, that's like a noir novel title.
It is, isn't it? A Grain of Malice. But Ben, what did you make of Clifford?
Sure, I quite enjoyed it.
Yay.
I think if I'd have seen it back in the 90s, I'd have really liked it because I was a huge Problem Child fan.
Right.
Me and my younger brother watched both the Problem Child movies. Yeah, so I thought it was all right. Once I got over the initial shock of seeing Martin Short as a 10-year-old.
It is a shock, I think. I couldn't really concentrate on the film, even though I knew it going in. I'd seen pictures of it, I'd seen the trailer, but even then, I wasn't prepared to sit down and watch the whole thing play out. I guess because I was expecting them to make more of it, and because they didn't, I was like, what?
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing in there. It's just played totally straight, isn't it? Charles Grodin's great. I thought Martin Short was funny. I'd say you got to watch it at least once.
I think you have to watch it twice. That's my takeaway from it. From having watched it twice, the second time was a very different experience for me.
Some of the lines, and we'll get to them later, but some of the lines in there are absolute classics. There's some really good lines in there.
And just some of the physical comedy as well.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Jiminy Glick, so any time I get to see Martin Short kind of gurning, I'm in my wheelhouse there. Gaz, you're nodding along to some of this. What are your thoughts on Clifford?
I'm more closely aligned with Adam's opinion. They're not quite as vicious in my assessment.
Shame on you. I wanted you to be more vicious.
It wasn't like pulling teeth for me. It was quite a brisk watch. But I found Martin Short's appearance and performance quite grotesque. There's numerous points where he does a big toothy grin right at the screen like a horror movie character that I found genuinely disconcerting. Like he was looking directly at me.
Yeah, that's his sensibility of being like a fan of old movies, and in this one, you know, as I said in the intro, one particular movie about an evil child. So I think he's playing up to that.
It's something that you can see him doing as Jiminy Glick, and indeed he does. But there's a, I don't know what you call it, more of a slapstick sensibility about that character that makes it feel less threatening.
Right.
And the other thing that nobody's mentioned yet that really took me by surprise is the fact that this film starts in the year 2050. When Clifford is a priest.
That's so weird.
Visiting an orphanage. Which I just thought, what's happening here? Because I knew it was the Martin Short Plays a Kid film. Just a bizarre wraparound. Absolutely bizarre.
And that was Ben Savage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Or
Exactly.
Fred Savage, one of them?
Fred.
Ben.
Fred.
Ben.
Savage was Boy Meets World, right? Fred
Yeah,
Savage is
it was
Wonder
Ben
Years.
Savage.
I didn't know there was two Savages.
So it was Ben
There's
Savage,
two
right? He had
Savages.
curly hair. Fred Savage got straight
It's
hair.
one of them. I don't know.
It's one of the Savages.
It's Ben. It's Ben.
Yes.
It's Ben.
It's my understanding that the bookend was kind of tacked on after test screenings
Ah, okay.
to humanize Clifford a bit, I think.
By sending him to the year 2050.
In a priest outfit.
Quite relatable.
Yes.
That was probably my only laugh out loud moment, actually, when he chokes on them in. I'll save that for later.
Well, we're going to move on now to a section that might be brief, and it is our favourite moments. But because I think he's been chomping at the bit to share one, I'm going to start with Ben.
I got quite a few, actually. One that really caught me off guard and made me laugh out loud was when Uncle Martin goes in the fridge and pulls out the milk carton and Clifford stuck his own photo of the missing boy on there. It's the pose in the photo cracked me up.
Right.
The hands out.
I think we'll come back around the horn to you, Ben, if you've got more. But let's go to Seth next. Do you have a favourite moment from Clifford?
I do. I'm a big fan of the Home for Wayward Boys stuff. I've never understood why that's weird and off-putting to people. If we can believe Clifford as a 10-year-old, why can't we believe him as a, whatever year old?
Great age makeup.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you do like the timeline, Martin Short is like as old as Clifford would be in 2050 now, and he looks much better than.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's two parts in that. One is when he pretends to have a heart attack and then he comes up with, "Look who's recovered." That one. And two, when Ben Savage is walking away and he just lassos him and pulls him back in. And he's like, "No, that's not the end of the story." And it's like, "Oh, okay." And again, it's like the child at no point is like, "Where'd you get that lasso?" Like we move on.
Yeah.
No time for reality. We're just blazing past. So I love those.
Adam, do you have a favourite moment from Clifford?
I just thought Seth was going to say one of mine then, because mine's from the same period of time when he's the priest. And it's when he's walking past and that basketball hits him and then the kid falls out on top of him. I was pissing myself. I was like, that's good. That's some good slapstick right there.
It's great escalation, yeah.
Yeah, I love that, yeah.
The basketball and then the suitcase. He's like, who's throwing? I say, who's?
Yeah, that's great. Gaz, favourite moment?
I forget where it falls in the film exactly, but Uncle Martin is telling Clifford to act like a human for a minute. Can't you just act like a human for a minute? And Martin Short is pulling these weird, like a robot trying to become human faces. Just blank, strained expression, one after the other. I told a lie earlier. That did make me laugh out loud as well. 2 LOLs from me during this film.
Nice.
One of the ones that really got me on my second viewing is the moment when Charles Grodin is kind of introducing Clifford to Mary Steenburgen. And he says, don't you see a family resemblance? And they go right together and smile. And then they both look at each other and then you see each other's confused look like. I just think the way that they play that is really well done. Ben, you have another favourite moment.
Another moment I really liked was in the kitchen just after Clifford had given his uncle the Tabasco to drink. Uncle Martin's furious. He starts beating him with a baguette. Quite brutal.
So I think it was Mary Steenburgen said in a Vulture oral history of Clifford that Grodin just kind of, without any rehearsal, came up with his escalating reaction to the Tabasco on the day. And it's so well done.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect. The way his eyes slightly cross and well up just at the end before he runs to the punch bowl. Really funny. Another sequence that I think is really funny is Uncle Martin's train ride to San Francisco with that strange family who are like feeding him. Let's go on to favourite lines, and this time I'm going to start with Seth.
Okay, favorite lines. I'll just say towards the beginning of the film speaks directly to us and lets us know its message loud and clear. When Clifford is pretending to sleep and then he wakes up abruptly and says, "Don't reject me."
That was my favourite line. I loved it. It was so funny.
It's great. And the way that Martin Short, goes from pretending to be startled and then his face turns to Uncle Martin and like slowly changes. It's so creepy and insane.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But yeah, don't reject me. I think of that all the time.
What a line.
That's great. Well, Ben, do you have another favourite line?
I do. I liked it after the party when Uncle Martin gets back from San Francisco and Clifford is trying to explain himself. He says, the bikers tied me up, then told me stories of what they do on their bikes. Some of them were fun, but some of them were scary.
That reminded me of Ralph Wiggum talking about Skinner in the janitor's closet.
Yeah, they're making babies, and I saw one of the babies and it looked at me.
Adam, did you have a favourite line from Clifford?
I did, funnily enough.
Yay!
And it is, "Mission accomplished, old friend." And that's the last line of dialogue in the film.
Yes.
That was quite nice.
And so the movie's over.
Yeah, Stefan's an interesting...
affectation.
Yeah.
I thought when he was a priest, there were all the best bits in there and stuff like that. That made more sense to me, sort of thing.
The way that Clifford converses with Stefan, and Stefan empowers Clifford, is kind of both creepy and at the same time kind of good for Clifford, It gives him the confidence to, as you rightly say, Uncle Martin does treat him quite poorly, but I think he is insane. Both of them, actually. Gaz, do you have a favourite line?
The only one I've really got is Uncle Martin saying to Miss Sarah, "Don't worry about Clifford. He'll be fine if you give him a ton of sugar and a book about Hitler." Because I think he's right.
Yeah.
Give him a nice, hefty, hardback copy of Mein Kampf and he'll be loving it.
Well, my favourite line is when Charles Grodin is first trying to tell Mary Steenburgen that he has a nephew at all, and whose name he forgets. And she asks him, what's he like? And he says, "Well, I haven't seen him since the christening. He'd be older now." In Clifford, the various rivals for the affections of Miss Sarah Davis scheme for her hand. Uncle Martin exploits his nephew to try to impress her. Their boss, Mr. Ellis, pretends to have a lush head of hair and puts the moves on her, while Clifford does everything in his power to take his uncle down a peg or two, including editing his answering machine message to frame him for a bomb scare, tainting his drink with hot sauce, and rigging his architectural model to explode. As if this wasn't enough diabolical mischief, Clifford is also plotting various ways to attend his beloved Dinosaur World, including hijacking a plane, bribing Miss Sarah with an engagement ring, and replacing the child of another family on a trip to the park. And that's not all. Uncle Martin is also plotting to kill his nephew by forcing him to ride the unsafe Scary Larry ride at hyperspeed. Eventually, Ellis is taken care of by Miss Sarah Davis herself, who rejects his inappropriate advances and his stretchy necklace, while Clifford and his Uncle Martin eventually reconcile. But what did the panel of peril make of the schemes? And let's start with Gaz. What did you make of whichever diabolical scheme you thought was the one that was the villainous scheme? Who do you think is the villain?
For me, it's Clifford. I just found him to be an odious little shit. So in that regard, I think his plan was pretty much perfect because he near enough destroys Uncle Martin's life. They do get married in the end, of course, he and Miss Sarah. But there's an element of that which feels tacked on because it kind of feels as though he is going to jail until you get that little cutaway of Clifford being the ring bearer for me. So I actually do quite like to think that Clifford was the bad guy and that he actually did succeed, and possibly even Uncle Martin is in an insane asylum, flapping his arms in a straitjacket along with Jim Carrey's Riddler, laughing at the night sky.
Adam, who did you think was the villain?
I thought it was Uncle Martin because it's just happenstance that he needed somebody to prove he wasn't a shit to kids or whatever. And then it was Clifford needing somebody because his crappy parents wanted to get rid of him, even though he's a bit of a handful himself.
Yeah.
So I just thought he wasn't doing it out of the kindness of his heart. And then we quickly established that he definitely isn't, and that he doesn't like kids at all. And Clifford's probably the worst possible child that he can get. In his own, he does everything he can, really. And then before he completes his coup de grace, he bottles it, essentially, and has a moment of guilt thinking, oh, he's actually only a boy. And then he saves him literally from the jaws of death. So
yeah. Well, Seth, you also nominated Ellis, but who did you, in the end, who ultimately is the villain of the piece?
I think it's Uncle Martin because I have children, and children can be quite difficult and devious, and you can find yourself saying, what on earth are you thinking? But as the adult, you have to control yourself and not beat them with a baguette when they put hot sauce in your...
Or drown them in Cheerios.
Yes. Yes, you can say like, oh, Clifford is a bad kid, but Uncle Martin is a bad adult. He's a bad person. He's horrible. A full-on person. So yeah, I give it to Uncle Martin. And yes, it does come around in the end. Everyone learns a nice lesson, but...
Oh, I think that's fair. What about you, Ben? And we'll round out with your score, of course.
Yeah, well, I thought it was Uncle Martin as well. I thought, for the same reasons Seth and Adam just mentioned, that he should have known better. But he didn't really have a plan. He was running on pure emotion all the time. So he's getting a low broccoli rating from me. He's getting 2 florets.
2?
2 florets of milky Tabasco-covered broccoli.
That's essentially for the plan of strapping Clifford to a roller coaster.
Yeah, I thought that was a good bit of revenge, like death by chocolate kind of thing. But yeah, he didn't. Everything else was just pure emotion, wasn't it? He didn't really have a plan to deal with his unruly nephew.
I mean, we're all parents as well. I think none of us have yet assaulted our children with bread. Am I right in thinking that?
To date,
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, just with psychological trauma, the normal stuff.
I might have thrown toast in their general direction, but it wasn't aimed at them. Before we go any further, I believe that Diabolical Podcast is the only place where a boy like me can be happy. And in order to continue making these, we need your support. Not financially, We don't need no trips to Honolulu. So here's the deal. Go to your room, write a written review for us on Apple Podcasts. I will not send you back to your parents, and you tell Sarah that you and I are the best of friends. You can ride our rickety roller coaster on socials at DiabolicalPod and taste our Tabasco at website diabolicalpod.com. See how you feel about this podcast after 10 hours or 100 hours.
This is the part of the show where the panel of peril compete for the title of Most Diabolical. We'll each vote for our favourite, and at the end, the person with the most votes will be crowned the winner of this special episode. But do remember, you cannot vote for yourself. Our task this week is to get revenge against Uncle Martin, or Clifford, or whoever you want, and bonus points if you win the heart of Miss Sarah Davis. And we'll start with Seth.
As Clifford stands there on the precipice of his near death, and he looks through the swirling fog at Uncle Martin, he realizes, I can't get him right now. I am but a child, and he is an adult. And so Clifford pretends to beg for forgiveness from Uncle Martin until he's allowed back into his life. He then spends the next decades devoting himself to the church in order to gain a role of prominence as the head of the Home for Wayward Boys. It is at this time, now as a grown man with plenty of power, that Clifford enacts his plan of revenge. He murders Martin and Sarah's son and his wife, thereby sending their grandchild, Roger, played by Ben Savage, to the Home for Wayward Boys. Why does Roger have such a resemblance in his character and his intelligence to Clifford? Well, it's because they are long-lost kin. And at the close of this film, which we don't see, Clifford murders Roger. And his decades-long plan of revenge against Uncle Martin's bloodline is finally satiated.
Wow.
Excellent. That's perfect. That might be the best guest plan we've ever had.
Was that too dark?
No, the darker the better. We like twists and turns like that.
One of the reasons that I chose Clifford as my antagonist over Uncle Martin is that I didn't want to write another plan where I kill a child.
Got it. Well, I still went that route.
Yeah, well, you're fresh. We've been doing this for a while.
When we did Goonies, we all killed them, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty grim, that one.
Yeah.
How does Clifford do it? How does he get rid of his uncle?
Well, at this point, Martin would have died of old age.
Yeah, so how does he off his son, and what happens to Roger? How does he
I'm not sure I want to know
dispatch
that.
him?
Oh, Roger? He takes him into the gymnasium and flays him and then strews his organs all around. I thought that was
I
implied.
thought you were just going to say push him off a bridge or something.
Oh, no. That's why he has the Home for Wayward Boys. He can do
right.
it there and hide it. And
Okay.
yeah.
Have him stand under a window, drop a basketball on him, then a suitcase,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
a child.
yeah.
Right.
Then a grand piano.
Yeah, and it also explains where the rope for the lasso came from.
Yeah.
Why
Okay.
does Clifford have this on him at all times?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
does he?
It's because he's preparing.
Yeah.
Today's the day. He's got to kill Roger before he escapes.
Drag him behind a car or a horse or something. Wow. All right. Well, that's a great start. Let's hear next from Adam.
Oh, Clifford, here we are at Dinosaur Park, says Uncle Martin, the sexually inadequate architectural genius. It's that place you always wanted to go, and now you've got the whole place to yourself. He adds in a totally normal voice, which isn't annoying. I'm so sorry I was a shit to you. Here's some cotton candy and I made especially for you. And shows his teeth in a way that suggests he's trying too hard. Man-boy Clifford beams up at him as he accepts the cotton candy and boards the Triceratops roller coaster. You can have as many goes as you like, says Uncle Martin. Thank you so much, Uncle Martin. You've made my dreams come true, tweets Clifford as he munches down on the cotton candy. As the ride starts up, Uncle Martin waves Clifford off with a huge fake smile plastered on his face, knowing full well what is about to happen. As Clifford continues on the ride, all excited, having the time of his life, the pterodactyl thing that is talking to him swings towards him and pierces Clifford straight through the chest and out his back, killing him instantly. The investigation into Clifford's death concludes that some of the wires attached to the pterodactyl weren't fastened tight and that some workman was to blame, and nothing to do with a dodgy architectural design. But secretly, it was Uncle Martin, and he's chuffed to bits that he didn't bottle it. Finn.
That was great.
So, are you suggesting that Uncle Martin, he devised this plan at the point at which he designed the roller coaster?
No, when he decided he was going to take Clifford to the Dinosaur World and dispatch him, he went in and sabotaged it on purpose.
Oh, I see.
He would know where to go, wouldn't he? Because he designed it.
Right.
And then when that thing's flying around, it just, one of the wires goes, and it just swings towards him.
Like Rogue One.
Straight through him.
Terry the pterodactyl.
Terry the pterodactyl, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was too obvious just to let the T-Rex fall on him and squash him.
Do something subtle, like put a pterodactyl through his chest.
Straight through his chest. Happy days.
I love Terry the pterodactyl's voice. It's great.
My only issue with this plan, Adam,
Yes.
is that it's physically impossible to munch cotton candy.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried it? It's just like...
It's probably, you know, but it goes that really dark pink colour, doesn't it, when it's a bit wet?
Yeah, you can get it chewy, can't you?
It can get quite crunchy, yeah.
If you inhale the whole cloud and condense it down.
Maybe I haven't had cotton candy for a long time.
Well, why don't you give us some of your sweet cotton candy now, and let's hear your plan.
I'm just going to preface this by saying this is a completely original idea. Uncle Martin sits Clifford down on a scenic garden bench. Clifford, I want to tell you a story, Martin begins. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Martin. He was clever and full of energy, always getting into trouble. He loved to play pranks and cause a ruckus, much to the frustration of his family. Clifford's eyes widen. You were like me, Uncle Martin. Martin nods. Oh yes, very much like you. My favourite place to dream about was an amusement park called UK Land. It sounded like the most magical place in the world. I imagined grand castles, charming cobblestone streets, and adventures with knights and dragons.
Petrol bikes?
And petrol bikes all over the place. But my antics were so out of control, my parents refused to take me. So I used to play pranks on my Uncle Harvey, trying to convince him with my best British accent that we should go. I'd sneak into his room and put vinegar in his morning tea. I'd put whoopee cushions in his morning tea. And hide fake spiders in his morning tea, shouting, "Blimey, Uncle Harvey!" every time he drank one. But Uncle Harvey got so annoyed he kidnapped me, took me to UK Land, and put me on the scariest ride of all, the infamous Cockney Wide Coaster. It was a nightmarish trip through the East End of London. The ride began with animatronic street vendors shouting in thick, incomprehensible accents, trying to sell you jellied eels and nanas £2 your pair. Uncle Harvey was so angry, he turned the speed of the ride to max and it malfunctioned. I was stuck hanging over a 20-foot-tall animatronic pearly queen with the worst gingivitis I've ever seen. His pearly buttons gleamed as he lunged at me with his oversized decaying teeth, shouting, "Knees up, Mother Brown!" Just as the pearly queen was about to eat me, Uncle Harvey saved me. Seeing how close I came to being chomped by a giant animatronic cockney, I realized that my actions had consequences, and that I needed to change if I wanted to avoid more terrifying experiences. Clifford looks down, no doubt feeling a pang of guilt. "I'm sorry, Uncle Martin," he says. "I'll try to be better. I promise." And thanks to the miracle of storytelling, he does. The end.
Wow.
That was an original idea, wasn't it?
That was nice.
Wow.
I was hoping for a bit more Cockney white boy accents there from you, but
Yeah.
I'll sort it out in the dub.
yes, please. Hello.
That was great.
Yeah, but there's one little hole in it, and that's that
Where?
Clifford knows that Uncle Martin's favourite theme park was the one that his father told him about, the place that got shut down before he could go there.
Yep.
Right. Well, forgot about that.
Oh well, that's no points for you this week.
What was it?
I think it's called like Green Land or something, Green Park.
Greenland. It's a magical place. It's the size of a country.
All right, Gaz, let's hear from you.
I, like Uncle Martin, fully and justifiably hate the grotesque child named Clifford. Therefore, in order to exact a revenge commensurate with the acts of sabotage the boy has thrust upon me, meaning Uncle Martin, I, meaning Gaz, shall take from him that which he holds most precious, dinosaurs. I, meaning me from here on out, shall place him in a straitjacket, who knows where I got that from, and take him to the nearest or farthest, I haven't decided yet, fundamentalist Christian commune. Out on a ranch someplace with no telecommunications available. Real Manson family vibes. But not to murder him. Oh no. To have them put a load of religious mumbo-jumbo in his head that dinosaurs never existed and that God planted random fossilized bones in the ground.
Oh.
It might take 6 months. It might take 6 years, but Clifford shall lose that which he holds most dear, his precious Stefan, his precious dinos, leaving him with nothing. Nothing to aspire to, nothing to look forward to, no family to love him, nobody that will miss him or speak his name when he dies. Nothing.
So you enjoyed this film then, Gaza?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh, wow. There's a new level of brutality.
So far, the lightest one is Cockney White Boy Land, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm quite proud.
You're trying to lift us up there, aren't you, Ben?
Yeah, trying to give the listeners a ray of light.
I can see a little twinkle in Craig's eye. I think he's got something quite dark planned for us.
I think, yeah, it's a mix of dark and light. I gotta punish you, says Uncle Martin, and that means Dinosaur World is out. But you know, Uncle Martin, someone as wise and worldly as you would realize that breaking a little boy's promise and punishing for it would be a terrible, terrible thing. I imagine that little boy wouldn't be responsible for what he was going to do next. See, now that sounds like a threat to me, and I don't like threats. So you're going to spend the rest of the day in your room. And spend the rest of the day in his room, Clifford does. And the following day. And all the days, waiting patiently for the arrival of his lady love, Miss Sarah Davis. But instead of tying himself up, Clifford is the model child who is seen but not heard. Suitably thawed to Martin, Miss Sarah agrees to stay the night, and one thing leads to another. Uncle Martin is just starting to feel his cojones erupt when it's coitus interruptus, as a distraught little Cliffy busts into the room sobbing about a nightmare he had. Naturally, the frustrated Martin's instinct is to bark at Clifford to get out, to which the precocious little scamp responds first with stunned silence, and then with a total meltdown. Miss Sarah, no longer in the mood, chastises Martin for being so mean, and when Clifford asks if he can sleep in their room tonight, she of course acquiesces. Clifford snuggles into Miss Sarah's bosom, a 2-for-1 of ruining his uncle's evening and making his own day. Clifford keeps this up for a good week, hitting his uncle where it really hurts, in his big blue balls. Meanwhile, Clifford quietly orders some cable pornography and allows his uncle to catch him watching it one afternoon. He was just curious, he says, to see what ladies' business looked like. Uncle Martin can hardly blame the boy for that, and assures him this is only natural, but that he shouldn't be watching this stuff. However, Martin is unable to shake the images, and that night, Frustrated and sleep-deprived, he resorts to onanism. Unbeknownst to him, Clifford has contacted Miss Sarah and invited her over, and she catches Martin in the filthy act. Is this what he wants? Blonde hussies with bleached buttholes, shaved coochies and big fake bosoms? She throws her engagement ring at him and storms out. In the year 2050, Father Clifford tousles little Roger's hair and sends him on his way before speeding home in his hovercar to bang his wife, Miss Sarah, who is still looking really good for a 97-year-old, and they reminisce about their reunion after 10 years apart, when he was a dashing young minister and she a lonely but toothsome spinster, blissfully unaware that the boy who loved her had spent all the intervening years encouraging his uncle to sabotage all of her other relationships.
Certainly took us on a journey with that one.
I feel unclean after hearing that.
I feel, yeah, I'm going to have a shower after this with bleach.
Those plans were wig-filchingly diabolical. First of all, we had Seth's long game, followed by grisly murder. Then we had Adam's impaled on a pterodactyl, architectural murder. Then we had Ben's...
Very original.
Ben's redemption, we'll call it. Then we had Gaz's Christian Science eradication of dinosaurs. And finally, we had my lusty nonsense. So, there can only be one winner, or possibly a 5-way tie, the so-called Belgian pretzel. So, with that, if we could all cast our votes, please. Adam, who did you vote for?
Well, for me, it was 2-way tie, but it just narrowly edged it because it was so dark and devious. Yeah, I've gone for Seth.
Oh, hey.
And the H, if you're wondering what that is, that's the Eye of Sauron.
Oh.
That's the Eye of Sauron, because that's how evil your plan was.
Thank you, thank you.
And Seth, who did you vote for?
Well, I swear I didn't write this just in response to that. I went for Adam.
Hey! Wow. Mutual back scratching it is. Lovely.
And that's a little bit of Terry the Pterodactyl.
That's fabulous.
I was going to very quickly draw like Clifford through his neck since he was punctured, but I ran out of time.
Oh, that would have been amazing. Well, feel free to send us a picture on social media of that, and that would be lovely.
Yeah, we'll definitely get that around. Ben, who got your vote?
Well, just for having the gumption of coming on this podcast and go with the darkest plan we may have ever seen, it's Seth. I'll give him a little cat of nine tails.
Thank you.
And Gareth, who did you vote for?
I too have voted for Seth. Did you see that? Ignore the codes for the safe and things like that in Word.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was almost a clean sweep. Almost. But just when I thought I'd heard the most diabolical plan we'd ever had, along came Gaz with his whole ethos-destroying plan.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah, I think death felt like a sweet release compared to that. I thought I'd rather die than have my core principles taken from me forever.
I went with Adams because it actually, despite not liking the film, he actually worked 100% within the framework of the film because Uncle Martin worked on that ride. And so like, that's where they end up. It's, pretty perfect.
That was one of the great things about your plan as well, was that could actually be the plot of the film. We don't know.
It totally dovetailed.
Yeah.
That could happen. That just off camera, we don't know that didn't happen. Okay, well, that will do us for another batch of evil schemes. But like Clifford, we're strapped into this roller coaster until we die. So look out for more guest episodes in future. Once again, we'd like to thank our special guest, Seth Vargas, for taking the time to join us and share his evil scheme. Now, we're going to pass the floor to you, or the mic. Where can Peril Pals hear more of your diabolical thoughts and belches?
All right. Well, I would love to have the floor passed to me. That's never happened before.
That'd be great.
So I am one of the hosts of Movie Friends podcast. I do the show with my friend Michelle, and we are everywhere at Movie Friends Pod, except for TikTok, because we tried that for a few weeks and realized that we're super old. So you can check us out at moviefriendspodcast.com. We have written articles by some of our friends, all of our episodes, our interviews, etc., etc. And we just like talking to people about movies, especially if you're cool. If you're not cool, you're not allowed to listen. Undownload our stuff and pick a new hobby, because movies ain't your bag, baby.
It's really fun and funny, and I highly recommend that you follow all of them on socials too. That's also a lot of fun. And the article's great. Go on the website. All of the stuff. Do it all.
Yeah, you want to read more about Clifford. And I should say very quickly, sorry, I didn't say this already, but thank you very much for having me. This was a lot of fun. And
our pleasure.
I would do this every day if I could convince 4 different people to watch Clifford every day. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly responses. I love all of it. Just knowing that more people have seen this, because before the internet, I didn't know anyone who had ever even heard of this, except for the people that I would sit down and say, I'm about to change your life.
Next week, we're back with another special guest episode, this time with Delaney Jordan and her choice of movie, Jupiter Ascending. And we'll be back with the next round of season 6 episodes very soon. But until then, remember, never underestimate the evil one.
Popcorn or nachos at the movies?
Okay, I'm sorry. An incredibly loud...
yes.
I don't know what you call them there. A petrol bike? What do you call it? A petrol cycle?
A motorbike, yeah. Bike.
A motorbike? Okay, a motorbike just flew by my house.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that one?
I'm going to be thinking about a petrol bike for ages now. What do you think? This is like fucking Dickensian in Britain.
Yeah.
Some sort of petrol bike.
But I remember seeing it.
Yeah.
And
there's that petrol
that
bike
bloody
again.
petrol bike.
Ah.